What's that saying? You went to a fight and a soccer game broke out?
Welcome to A More Philly Union, the podcast where we swear to talk about the Philly Union, the whole Philly Union, and nothing but the Philly Union with as few digressions as possible. We are your hosts. I'm E.
I'm C.
And I'm Paul.
All right, let's jump in a little bit of housekeeping right up front. The Help Us Help the You challenge check. We are currently up to 526 downloads. That's 21 downloads since last week. So thank you everyone for chipping in and downloading an episode or listening in. I think we might have a new listener. I have to double check the history of our statistics, but Maryland, I don't think we've had anyone from Maryland before. Maybe we have. Remember. I don't know, but just in case. So. Hey, Maryland, thanks. And if we didn't thank you earlier, sorry for not getting to you sooner. But
so we've been getting a pretty consistent number of downloads week to week. I wonder how many of them are subscribers. Just want to say thank you if you are subscribing and following us week to week, even if you're not listening to them. Hey, that's okay. We'll take the downloads, but I do hope you are listening to them and enjoying it at least.
So wherever you get your podcast or however you're tuning in, if there's an option to subscribe, feel free to click on that button to see what happens.
Please.
It's interesting, just looking at our numbers. Our most downloaded podcast episode this month is episode 20, the Midnight Train to Georgia. So
oh really? When we talked about the Atlanta game?
Yeah. So
one more piece of housekeeping that my oft-mentioned mother, Nancy, has accepted the nickname of Scoops.
Oh, yes.
Awesome.
She confirmed that she does not wear hats. But
we'll work on that.
We'll get her a tiara. Will she take a tiara?
That might actually be worse. But we'll see. We'll see what we can do. It would mess up her hair less. So anyway.
Alrighty. Well, shall we jump into the games?
Yeah, a lot of action last week.
Yeah, it was one or two things happened. So Union played two games last week. First game was at Nashville.
Yeah, that's right.
And the second game was home with New York City FC. Let's jump.
What's that saying? You went to a fight and a soccer game broke out? I mean, it wasn't U.S.-Mexico, but it got pretty physical there towards the end.
Yeah, which is a little bit of a surprise with Nashville. I mean, not that they've really popped up on the radar for, clashing with us and vice versa. But, if this was, a New York team or, one of the usual suspects. But this was kind of...
It's not like it's Chicago.
Yeah, this was kind of a new one. The game got very... it got very interesting.
I mean, it got physical and it got unhinged, and we can get to that. But there was just a lot happening.
Yeah.
And I think you're right, Chrissy. I mean, I think that there's a reason why Nashville particularly got upset, and had a lot to do with how the game was going against them for most of the game. We jumped ahead to the end because that's what everybody's going to remember. But I agree. I mean, we can certainly backtrack and jump back to the beginning because it's not how it ended is not how it started out.
No.
Yeah, we need to Tarantino this thing. So we give you the ending. Let's show you how we got here. Well, in terms of the lineup, was this the first game
so we Martinez was out sick and Bueno was in for him.
Kai
was back. Bizo was not.
That's right. He did not start.
To start, but they did. I just wanted to add that they did mention that it didn't have anything to do with the transfer request news that came out last week. Who knows? That's at least that's what Curtin said. So
I think we got some stuff to talk about that too a little bit.
Yeah, but that's my lineup news.
Gosh.
And then Sullivan also got the start over Aura. which honestly I thought was probably Bueno played so well, but I would say this was Sullivan's game. Like, especially early on, Sullivan really showed up in this game, and it was really making Jim look incredibly smart to put him into this game. He was buzzing around the ball. He was getting into dangerous space. He put one off the upright like 10 minutes into the game. He jumped on an early bad pass from the Nashville defense to take another shot. And that Carranza then followed up, and I think the Sullivan start was a really good call in this one. I'm not sure in particular why this game he showed up, but he looked good. And it was our 4-4-2. And like I said, like you mentioned there, Christy, Martinez was not in. He was a late scratch for sickness, is what they said. And Bueno showed up. He held down that position. That's not easy when knowing you're going up against Hani Mukhtar.
Exactly.
Made him look human.
Apparently there's about Mukhtar, there is some possibility that he's going to be moving. They didn't say to where, but I guess it's just all this transfer window kind of buzz going on right now.
Do you think that's real? Do you think it's just buzz? I mean,
I don't know. I'm really not sure. Apparently he's quite devoted to Nashville. He got married on the field.
I heard that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I guess I mean, you know how it is with our players. There's a lot of scuttlebutt about, there's interest from whomever. So it could just be that, but
and let's be honest. I mean, Mukhtar is a reigning MVP of the league, and arguably up there again this season. He probably is getting a few more phone calls than McGlynn or Mbaizo. I also, I know this game we did have Bendik, and we haven't always been his biggest fan. But he did make himself really big on an important breakaway after the, in that first half of this game. They had a transition play. They gave it up. Nashville had a quick restart, got a 2-on-1 against, I think it was Elliott, and played the ball. They played the ball across to a running Teal Bunbury, and Bendik came out. He made exactly the right move. He made himself big, and Bunbury ended up putting it over the net. I remember listening to, I can't remember which podcast now, but they were talking about wherever they got their stats from showed an XG for Nashville of over 2. And then we ended up with the Union ended up holding them to a shutout, and Bendik had no saves on the night. And it's, a crazy set of stats if they had a XG of 2 and Bendik had no saves. But I would say that this goal, that work in particular in the first half, when he made himself big in front of Bunbury, like, he really showed that Bendik wanted to play. That the whole team was really up for this one.
That was like Bendik wants to move up and play a defender position.
And maybe. I don't know if he wants to run that much, though.
No, that's true. Yeah, it's kind of funny after last week, when I talked about the failure of the Bendik experiment, that was all plan on my part to kind of fake out fate and say those things, and then, totally expect that Bendik would come through and, give us a shutout without even have to do a single save. So, take that, universe.
The Joe Bendik project.
The Joe Bendik project, exactly.
So, I mean, it was a exciting first half, but it did feel like it was anybody's game. And then the Union got a late free kick later in the second half. Wagner puts it into the box. Gazdag goes for it, and then Nashville, I don't know if he's a defender or not, but Lovitz from Nashville, just a boneheaded mistake, just puts his hands on Gazdag's back and pushes him forward.
That was such like that was a real blatant move. It was just,
I'm not saying that Gazdag didn't enhance the push. He may have gone a little more horizontal than necessary. I mean, when you feel the hands on your back and you feel that push, and yeah, he went down, and it was very clearly a foul.
I mean, Gazdag was airborne when the guy pushed on him, so it was just.
I was just grateful Gazdag missed the upright and
yes,
didn't hurt himself.
Yeah,
he was headed towards the upright, and it was a little, clenchy moment right at the end as he kind of careened towards the goalpost, but
yeah. And then they upheld the call on VAR, and Gazdag stepped up.
Yeah, the Union's 12th man, VAR.
That's right. I still don't understand how Gazdag gets into the keeper's heads, though, the way he does, and gets them diving the wrong way. And he did it again. Just drove it past them.
I think Gazdag is kind of like, if it was like a scene out of a movie, like the keeper, the camera behind the keeper's face, and you hear his thoughts, like, going through all these numbers, statistically, where does Gazdag tend to shoot? Trying to read his body language. That left shoulder is a little low. That probably means he's gonna, open the hips and try to put it into the lower right corner and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden it switches over to like Gazdag, and it's just like, oh, butterflies are pretty. I got to kick the ball.
Yeah,
he's just unreadable because there's nothing to read.
Yep, he's totally in the moment.
Yeah, exactly.
And, whatever it is he does, though, I mean, he consistently gets the keepers going the wrong way, and gave the Union a 1-0 lead going into into halftime. So
I know I'm probably totally jinxing everything just by even asking this question. Is Gazdag, batting 1,000 when it comes to his penalty kicks this year?
Yeah. Not just this year, his entire MLS career.
Oh man, now I feel really bad when he misses that first one.
No, do not talk to the pitch. Do not talk to the pitcher who's pitching a perfect game. Do not talk about the pitcher pitching a perfect game.
So I gotta hope he makes it through the next week without missing a PK, and then I'll be vindicated.
Yeah.
So halftime, right? Union go halftime. It's up 1-0. But I agree, Paul. Yeah, it was still anyone's game. Nashville was not going quietly into that good night at all.
Oh, no.
And there were definitely parts in this game when it was really opening up. I mean, it was just end-to-end soccer. Just, the one team would stop the attack and immediately launch to a counterattack, which made for a very exciting game. It was very fun to watch.
It was fun.
As a prelude to what I think of more as Act 2 than the second half, let me just put this out there that the ref, Serhii Boyko, has given out more cards than any ref in MLS this season. This is the gun that will go off in the third act. Because just wanted to lay that groundwork. Interestingly, just for some color commentary, he is apparently Ukrainian and left after the war started with his family. Came here 7 months ago to be a ref. So if you looked closely, you could actually see on his whistle he had the ribbon was the colors of the Ukrainian flag. So a bit of color for him, but none of that keeps him from being very friendly with his cards. Just put it that way.
Chekhov's gun. That's the phrase. I had to go look it up. I was like, I know that plot device. I'm just like, what was the name of it? I was thinking Trotsky, but I'm like, that's not right. Different Russian.
I had a coworker tell me recently that when he found out I was an English major, he was like, "Oh, I've never met one." I'm like, "Well, that's
right. You have now met one in the wild."
Yeah. So second half,
like a mother.
In the second half, we had some subs. Around the 60th minute, Sullivan came in. Bedoya came out, and McGlynn came in. I could see bringing in McGlynn. I don't know if Ali's I don't know, just needs a little bit of downtime.
It was tough. Let's be clear. It was a very tough night for the players. I mean, it was hot out there. They had a hydration break in the first half.
That's true.
And it was definitely draining on them. But even before they did those subs, I just remember that flurry of attacking shots that Nashville generated, and put one off the crossbar, put one off an upright.
Yeah.
You know, the Union had like 2 shots that they were able to clear off the line, and then somehow Nashville still put it over the end line. It was a flurry of attack.
Yeah. Nashville was definitely on the front foot. They were definitely looking to correct the error from the previous half.
You know, which Jim Curtin has often said that's where the Union wants to be playing. They want to be playing up a goal, and they want the other team to be chasing them.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly seemed like Nashville was chasing a goal, and seemed like they were going to get something out of it. And then, like you said, they sub in McGlynn and others, and there's a questionable call in the box that goes the Union's way with a possible handball on McGlynn. What did you guys think of that play?
Oh, right. Yeah, right. Because they were coming in from the corner.
Went over the Nashville player. I forget which one. And it seemed like McGlynn was expecting it to glance off of him. And then he didn't end up making contact, and the ball went off of McGlynn's arm. The referee did not, blew it not a PK, saying that, he wasn't deliberately trying to make himself bigger with his arm or play the ball. And yeah, I mean, I understand why Nashville was upset not to get that call, but I also get why it wasn't called a handball.
Yeah, I felt like almost like that Nashville player was inadvertently screening McGlynn. Like, he didn't have a clear line of sight. And like you said, I think McGlynn was expecting the ball to go off that Nashville player, and it just went right past him. And then, I remember watching the replay. McGlynn's not really even moving, so it's not like, for me, the question was, well, is his arm, held out at a, however the phrase is,
unnatural
position. It's just kind of like, well, his arm's not even moving. It's just kind of like, maybe they're like, when I stand and don't move, like, what are my arms doing? It's like, that's kind of like the question. Like, if I had my arm, if I was just standing there and someone kicked a soccer ball at me that I didn't even see coming and went off my arm, is that a foul? Yeah, I agreed with the ref. I don't know. It's always tricky, right? Because the one kind of answer that goes with all that is that, well, as long as they're consistent. Well, something like that usually doesn't happen twice in the game anyway. But
it can. Yeah, it can. And I mean, yeah, I've made my position on this very clear. I'm very much against it hit his elbow and it was right next to his body and it's a handball now or something. I mean, I know that's exaggerating, but so I thought it was the right call in the end. So I know there are a lot of schools of thought on this, I thought I agreed with the ultimate call.
It does, to go off on a quick tangent, that whole, handball in the box, that kind of rule, it's kind of like, it's like almost like a question of extremes. If it's like, it's got to be a blatant use of the hand against the ball. Like, when you're playing just goofy pickup soccer and someone, your friend kicks the ball and you just slap it out of the air, just, got to be that guy. It's like, okay, that should be a penalty, but anything less than that, not a penalty, right? Or it's the other extreme where it's like, if it even just glances off your arm, doesn't even matter if your arm is like, you got your hands in your pockets. It doesn't matter if it touches your arm in your box, automatic penalty kick. I could almost see the strategies that would grow out of that rule. Where, all right, we're going to practice like just shooting at each other's arms just because we're going to go for the PKs all the time. We're not going to shoot on net. We're going to shoot on the defenders. Just go for the elbows.
Well, it's interesting you say that because the Premier League they changed their rules briefly a few years ago, and it was much, much easier to to foul to get a handball. And it was kind of wreaking havoc because, they did, it was like penguins in the box and, and just calls left and right and craziness. So I think, I don't know if they rescinded it or sort of amended it in some way, because I don't follow Premier League as closely as I do Union and MLS, but I remember there was an awful lot of concern over that because it was really affecting the game. And maybe it was an adjustment period. I'm not sure, but it was a lot easier to be called for a handball. And it's actually, I'm actually a little interested. I'm surprised that that call wasn't made, since I just said what I said about this ref.
Yeah, right.
So but I guess maybe it's a slightly different thing for him. So
what do you think, Paul?
I was okay with the call on the field, that it was not a handball, and that McGlynn wasn't trying to play the ball, wasn't trying to make himself bigger, and I was okay with it, just being play on. I also, like I said, understood why Nashville was upset. I didn't think that they were going to win the appeal. But I thought it was a good call and good work by the referee crew to let that one go. But it was, I can feel that the Nashville fans and team frustration was growing, because shortly after that, the Union got a second PK that, like you mentioned earlier, Eric, it was a back and forth game, and the Union generated an attack, and Aura and Carranza were making runs, and Aura took the ball into the box towards the end line and cut it back to Carranza. And then once again, Lovitz, for who knows what reason, decides to go and slide and just totally takes out Aura. The ball was away from him, but it was a clear foul, and the referee had no choice but to call it and give him the second yellow card. So, an unnecessary foul in the box. Yellow card. Second yellow card. Red carded off the field. I mean, at that point, wow, just not Lovitz's night. I mean, I know he's actually from the Philadelphia area originally.
Oh, well, that explains it.
So maybe somebody slipped him something and was like, "Hey, how about it?" I don't honestly think that's what happened, but I mean, just from a joking standpoint, he certainly seemed to be doing what he could to give the Union an advantage here. So he's off the field. Gazdag gets to step up again, take another penalty kick, score his, I think, 9th goal of the season. He's second on the Union, I believe, behind Carranza in goals scored. Now, granted, like 7 or 8 of them are off of the PK, but you still have to score them. And somehow or again, he gets the keeper going the opposite direction and puts it past him. It's so hard to tell if Gazdag is getting them to go the way he wants them to go and putting it where he wants it to put, or does he actually watch which way they're diving and just puts it to the other side? I'm just grateful. One of the things that always frustrates me the most is when soccer players just drive it down the middle. Because they expect the keeper to. I understand the from a probabilistic standpoint, like I understand why they do that, but there's also a part of me that just thinks that's kind of sucks. Just pick a side and drive it. And Carranza did it again for a second goal, giving the Union a 2-0 lead late in the game.
And with that, because then Carranza Gazdag scores, and he kind of off to the goal line.
No, he didn't even go to the goal line. He was like, at the 6-yard box. But I know where you're going.
But he was gesturing towards not gesturing, but he's gesturing, not gesturing with his hands, but he was facing and obviously addressing the crowd, kind of like how do you like me now kind of pose. And the rest of the bunch of the Union guys came over, and that's when at least one bottle came flying onto the field.
It kind of hit him on the back of the neck, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know how full it was or not, but he took exception. As did a lot of the players who were with him.
And actually, kudos to Nashville's goalkeeper, because he kind of turned to the crowd as well, like addressing him like,
Yeah.
guys, you got to calm down. Like,
Yeah, he did.
don't be doing this.
Yeah. He
So
wasn't having it.
so kudos to him. But so I guess apparently though, and I didn't know this, Gasol got a yellow card for excessive where is it? Excessive celebration.
For flexing.
For flexing, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, that he quite literally flexed. That's
Yeah.
sort of what he was doing. Is his version of flexing. But, yeah.
I mean, if you're going to get the yellow card for celebrating after a goal, you feel like you should do something bigger than just, pose and yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess, I don't know. It seems like, blaming him for something that and to be clear, I understand in the moment why a fan would get frustrated
Sure.
and want to be angry enough to throw something. It doesn't mean that you should. And I'm grateful that it didn't happen in Philly, because it would just be one more thing that people would say, well, look at those stupid Philadelphia sports fans. But yeah.
Well, and at that point,
what a shot though, to hit him the way. I mean, they actually took some skill to hit the back of his neck like that. I'm not saying it's a good thing either, but yeah, it's on target. Go on.
Now that's got the makings for a movie, right? They're gonna like find that fan and give him a spot on the team, and like with that accuracy,
yeah, right.
You got to find a role.
Can't use your hands there.
Yeah.
After the goal and after the going up 2-0, the referee once again showing his World Cup past gave 14 minutes of stoppage time.
Yeah, that was
a lot of stoppage time.
That was a lot. I was surprised by that number, because it's always the game, right? At the 90-minute mark, like, how many minutes of stoppage time, right? Yeah. And I'm always like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6. It pops up at 14.
Yeah,
it's like, all right,
that was.
I mean,
a lot.
I like free extra soccer, but I mean, I don't know if I would have called 14. But at that point, the game was kind of on a bit of a downward spiral at that point, because it was starting to get really chippy out there. And what was the Nashville player's name? Moore, I think, was getting tangled up a lot. But he and Carranza, I guess it was more in the midfield. Yeah, it was getting pretty chippy. And yeah, around the 5th minute of stoppage time, things got pretty darn chippy.
It boiled. It boiled over.
Because Carranza and Moore clashed. And I don't know how to describe it. It's just kind of like this one that I guess Moore took out.
Well, Carranza made a run at the ball.
Yeah.
He went in hard. Shoulder to shoulders, or as far as the ref was concerned, it was shoulder to shoulder with a defender. Tried to win, almost, he won the ball. Moore comes in to be the second defender from Nashville, and basically wraps up Carranza.
Yeah.
And just kind of grabs a hold of him, won't let him play.
Yep.
Clearly a foul.
Kind
of bends him over a little bit backwards, and then Carranza takes exception to that. And before the referee can get there blowing his whistle, the two of them go at it, and Carranza ends up getting him in a bit of a headlock and tosses Zach Moore to the ground.
Yep.
Honestly, looked like a move I learned in a self-defense class I took years ago.
It did. It did. It just like, he just kind of, I think Carranza kind of like wrapped it around his waist and just threw him down to the ground. And I don't know if Carranza's ever gotten a straight red before, but I guess if not, this is his official. He got his Philly card punched in this game. One of us. And then there's a little bit of a proverbial bench clearing. A bunch of players came in to break it all up. It got.
I mean, so much so that Curtin got a yellow card.
So Curtin got a yellow card.
Yeah, apparently he mouthed off at the referee, used a 4-letter expletive starting with F.
Yeah.
And got himself a yellow card. I mean, I don't know how yellow cards work for the coaches if they build up enough of them, if they get an effective red card. But yeah, that was not good.
Yeah.
But hey, after that, going 10-on-9 for the last of the part of the game. There was plenty of space on the field, but nobody could generate a really dangerous shot, it seemed like.
You know what this reminded me of? I remember it was like, wow, so Nashville's down 2, we're down 1. It reminded me of that time years and years ago, we were playing FIFA, and we just did the experiment. Like, all right, you fouled me, you get a red card, and I'll foul you, I'll get a red card. And let's see if we can get down to like goalie versus goalie. But apparently there is a limit. I think you're only allowed like 3 or 4 red cards. Was it a 3?
Yeah, well, if you get a 4th, your team forfeits.
Okay. Yeah. So we kudos to EA Sports for having that in their game. But yeah, I remember watching this game thinking like, wow, they're only like 1 more red card away from the game being called based on red card accumulation.
The game would end before that would happen, and the Union would actually end up leaving Nashville with a 2-0 win on a couple of penalty kicks from Gazdag.
And what did we predict for this one?
And Gazdag got player of the match day, for what it's worth.
He got player of the match day. Nice. Yeah, I think we both predicted.
You both predicted ties.
Yeah, because we weren't brave enough to commit one way or the other. What did you say, Paul? So Paul, you said,
I thought Nashville was going to win.
All right. Well, fortunately, we were all wrong.
Yay!
Oh, okay. Oh, you meant you and I.
Yeah.
Did the draws. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So after that game, I don't know. It felt like a little bit of return to old form. 1, both in the scoreboard. 2, the attitude on the field. You know, it was just kind of like Curtin said, like, hey, if you want to have a what'd you say?
Street fight.
We can do
soccer.
We can play soccer. We can do that too. And that was it just kind of reminded me of the a little bit of the scene from The Replacements when Falco comes back for during the last game, and they're getting pushed around by Dallas. So the very first play they decide is just every player on the team is just going to personally foul somebody on the Dallas team, and the refs can't even keep track of all the fouls that were committed. But like just getting that whole like, let's make it messy, but this is how we play. It's like, all right, that kind of unifies and gets the team back on track. That's what I feel like this game is a little bit like. Okay, so trip back home to Philly, where Saturday then we welcome New York City FC. Paul, you were at the game, right?
I was.
Yeah, you were at the game. And
it was a military appreciation night. So we got to see the parachuter land in the middle of the field. I think that's the first time they've ever done that.
Oh, cool.
Also, kudos to the grounds crew there at Subaru Park, because they're making more use of the fireworks. The drone was up and about. They actually had a flyover from I want to say it was Coast Guard helicopters.
Nice.
They were really trying to get it involved. I will say that I believe they had, I forget who it was that banged the drum this week. Kind of weak, on
the drum banging.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect Jason Kelsey every time that somebody goes there, but I mean, like, he looked like he was barely tapping, and he was a big guy. I'm like, maybe he was afraid he was going to knock it over if he hit it too hard. But somebody should have just shown him the video of what Kelsey. People have done in the past, and he could have really whacked the. Yeah. I mean, his arms were huge. He had really long, really big arms. He could have really done some. Just made it sound. Yeah. But kudos to the Union ground crew there. They're really upping the performances on the field this year, and it's I appreciated it. And I would also, grudgingly commend the NYCFC traveling fans. They had a pretty good turnout and number wise. They filled up that section 130, whatever it is, in the corner by Sons of Ben. And they were loud. I mean, we're on the northern side, so they're kind of between us and the Sons of Ben anyway. But they were loud from the start. They were loud all game long. They were, they brought in instruments. I don't know how they managed that one. But,
I wonder what the paperwork is for that. I always wonder, it's like you hear a trumpet. It's like, how does someone get a trumpet in if they're like, they don't even let you bring a person if it's not transparent, So,
but yeah, they did a good job. Obviously, the Sons of Ben with the numbers were obviously louder, but they did put up a fight in the stands.
In terms of the lineup for this game,
Blake
is back. Exactly, that's where we're going. Right. I'm glad. I'm glad Joe Bendik was able to, the Nashville game went the way it did. So I'm glad it ended his tenure as starter for the time being ended on a positive note. But yeah, Blake was back.
Blake is back again.
It's curious to me that Blake was back, but Martinez got the tifo.
Yeah. Well, I guess those tifos take a little time to get put together.
Yeah, I suppose. But I mean,
I think they did that because of the All-Star game. I think they did that because of the All-Star game this week, not because of whatever. But yes, that's right. Blake or Martinez was featured on the tifo. I'm not sure exactly what that tifo was supposed to. It looked like some sort of superhero. He was done.
I was trying to figure out what that was, but
I think you're right, E, that it takes a while to put them together, and I also think they timed it because he was selected for the All-Star game that's going on this week, and that's why he was put up there. But I would agree. It was the 4-4-2. Martinez was in, obviously with Carranza out. Sullivan started again, this time with Aura. And then most importantly, most comfortably, and thank goodness he was there, Blake was in net.
Yeah. And his presence on the field was definitely felt.
Well, they ended up needing him. He made a couple of really critical saves, one or two in the first half that were particularly good, a few during the second half, but definitely towards the end of the game, he really, proved his value to the team.
Yeah.
By the end of the game, he was all that Taylor Tolman could talk about. Taylor fixates a little bit. And so he had a few things during the game, but by the end, it was all Blake all the time. So,
yeah.
One interesting little statistic tidbit that came up, and this was also supported in the previous Nashville game. Once again, the Union not having majority possession, not having the majority of passing, etc. So I heard from the announcers during the game that the Union on the percent possession has the fourth lowest in the league for possession, which tracks. But the other thing I realized that Matt Freese is a backup keeper for New York City FC. I totally forgot all about that.
Yeah, we had let him go, and he had signed with them thinking that he might actually have a shot at the starting position there, and then they brought in somebody else whose name I can't remember right now, and he didn't get it.
Yeah. And then also in terms of like home game performance, the Union has only allowed 6 goals at home this season.
Wow.
And only 1 goal in the last 5 home games. So, Fortress Subaru Park is definitely living up to its bona fides.
Doesn't really sound like a Fortress.
Yeah, it doesn't really work, but you get the idea. Team Discovery Channel.
Although for all I know, Subaru does mean something quite heroic.
Yeah.
But just since I know it as essentially a station wagon.
So in the game, Sullivan, got the start again, but he did not look as effective against NYCFC as he did against Nashville. But I will say that the first goal that the Union scored, which was Sullivan breaking down the right side, I remember even watching from the stands, you could see Martinez making the late run, waving it, like literally his arm up over his head, waving it around, trying anything he could do to get Sullivan's notice. And Sullivan just makes a great cross from like around the middle of the 18-yard box outright and then gets it over the last NYCFC defender, and Martinez with a side foot volley powers it past their keeper. It was so well taken. I'm sure he was grateful to get the cross, but more grateful probably just to make sure to have Sullivan actually notice him calling for the ball.
Yeah, that goal is got to be a contender for goal of the week. I mean, the ball was like 6 inches from the ground, and he just, like you said, opened up his inside of his foot and just put it in.
Just no settling it, no any of it, just boom, right in. I mean, the word someone used was assassin. I think that's you could say that for both of his goals so far. So that was 2 goals in the last 4 games for Martinez after 0 in the first 85 in MLS. So wow. God love him.
Yeah, and it's definitely showing on the field, particularly after the games or before games.
All the dancing and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't hit the ball, hit through the ball, and Martinez is hitting it 6 feet past the ball on his shots. It's either it's going in or it's going out of the stadium. But so
I think the announcers even made a comment about that. Like, usually when he's hitting the ball, it's often like going out of the stadium.
You guys watched the end of Ted Lasso, the last episode?
I have not seen the last episode.
No.
All right, I'm shutting up.
It's like that last present under the Christmas tree. We just don't want to open it up, otherwise Christmas is over.
All right, I won't say anything else.
All right, yeah, we got to watch.
Yeah, we will. We will
watch it.
But hey, this game was nice. The Union got very comfortable once again, being up a goal, making NYC chase them around the field. I don't really have a whole lot. Obviously, when I was at the stadium, I wasn't taking notes.
Sure.
So I don't know what you guys have on the first half, but I was just glad to be in the stands, having a good time.
Oh, sure.
Chatting with the people around me about why Blake is still in the MLS and why Blake is still in MLS working, playing for the Union. I actually remember reading an article, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that Jamaica has never broken the top 50 in FIFA's world rankings, because if they had, it would have been much easier for him to get a working visa in Europe. And he probably would have been traded. Probably would have been transferred to Europe if he could have gotten working papers.
Wow, Jamaica's never broke the top 50.
Yep.
Wow,
that's wild to me that it makes such a difference. But
yeah, I want to go
when his individual talent is so evident.
Yeah. And again, maybe I'm wrong about 50. Maybe it's 25 or something like that.
Regardless, the fact that it has such a bearing. When again you can see what he can do is remarkable to me. But there it is.
Well, the one little dark lining on the cloud of Martinez's goal was a few minutes thereafter Bedoya got subbed out.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't even. I mean, it was that same stoppage after
during that stoppage. Okay.
They took a hydration break, and you saw Bedoya sit down and was like, I calling for a substitute. Not good.
What did I couldn't see anything on the broadcast. Paul, did you see any, like, was he limping? What was going on? Was he
all of a sudden he was just coming off?
Yeah, and his face looked, I mean, I know he's just been running around, but he looked
gassed. He looked gassed.
Yeah.
And he was talking to our favorite physio
trainer,
on the sideline too.
Paul Rushing, right?
I can never remember his name, so to me is
his name's Paul, so it's easier for me to remember.
Yeah, that's true.
But I have not done any research to find out what happened with Bedoya. Yes, hopefully, since we have some downtime, he'll get a chance to rest and heal up and be ready from whenever the Union season starts up again. But I don't know.
He is traveling with his family right now, and his wife has taught him to do laundry. So I guess all is not lost. He's well enough to. Sorry. Instagram update.
Nice.
I also had a note here. There was more attacking Glesnes in this first half, which is pretty fun to watch. Not only is Glesnes putting up a wall of a defense, but he's been pushing forward. And it's attacking Glesnes, which is,
I mean, as well he should, because you see that coming at you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to hold the line for that long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know these are professionals, but still, that's a lot of person coming
Mm-hmm.
at you in a game that isn't exactly known for tackles and that kind of thing.
No, yeah, he definitely seems to have been given more rein to attack and drive through the midfield, try to find out what's in. And of course, as soon as he crosses midfield, the fans start yelling, "Shoot!"
Yeah.
So if anybody's listening on the broadcast, they're not booing him; they're yelling, "Shoot!"
And that's funny. That's often one of the things, depending on the announcer, when Glesnes has the ball and you hear the crowd yelling "shoot," they often will, subtext to the audience at home like, "Oh, they're saying shoot because
Yep,
goalie or."
Another fun fact: some people yell that in their living room.
No,
I've heard it myself.
Oh, and the MVP chance came back this week, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first half ended Union up 1-0.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed very comfortable position for the Union to be in. Second half, was it Sullivan that got subbed out for Donovan, or was it Ura? I think it was Ura.
Sullivan subbed out for Donovan.
Did he?
And McLean got subbed out for Flock.
All right. So the only real thing a couple points I wanted to pick were towards the end of the second half. I don't know if you guys had any notes or anything you wanted to bring up before Donovan gets the game winner.
Sure. I noticed that Pellegrini and Martinez were clashing a bit there in the midfield. And particularly, I guess, during one particular clash, Pellegrini was proverbially getting in Martinez's face, but Martinez just didn't respond. So I was like, all right, whatever he's doing this season. Yeah, whatever he's doing this season to kind of, mitigate the very overly passionate response seems to be, producing fruit on the field. So I was like, good for Martinez. He didn't take the bait.
Yeah, the old jokes from even just earlier this season about, it's not a game unless Martinez gets a card, or so it's definitely tapered off. There was a lot of talk actually in this game about how you do kind of want someone wild.
Mm-hmm.
In the midfield, not wild, but a little, aggressive, I guess would be a better term, in the midfield. But I think there's a line to walk there, and I think he's finding that line.
Yeah.
So. Yeah,
I don't want to see Martinez become completely docile. Like I like the impish, the button pushing. I like keep doing all that. Let's all do it without minimal yellow card accumulation.
That would be good.
Yeah. So I felt like the second half there was a little bit of even give and go. Right. I know New York had a couple chances, but combination of people being in the right place and also having Blake in net pretty much rendered any New York attempt. It rendered it useless or fruitless.
Moot.
Yes, there you go. So do you want to talk about the Donovan?
Yeah, we need to score that play. I mean, it didn't seem like there was going to be a whole lot out of it, but I mean, he made a nice run in the 81st minute, I think it was. It was definitely after the 80th minute. Ran onto a through ball, challenged at a defender coming at him and the goalkeeper, and seemed to pick up some of Carranza's key or whatever it was, and somehow the ball bounces past gets beyond the keeper and ends up right at Donovan's feet, and he just pounces on it and drives it home for a second goal.
Yeah. And was this his first goal?
Yes, it was
Very
his first
first
MLS goal.
MLS goal.
Yeah.
I think I had heard somewhere that he'd scored in like a Open Cup or a Champions League game or something like that. But this was his first season
MLS.
goal.
Yeah. Yeah, that was such a nice play. And I know Gosdahl kind of started it with that little back heel pass as well. I just love seeing those slick, cheeky little quick one-time, 1 foot, no look pass. And it's that first domino in a play of, of skill and things just going our way. Yeah. At that point, I felt like we were definitely steamrolling at that point.
Well, and it proved to be important too, because like 5 minutes later, NYCFC, causes a scrum in the Union's box, and they pounce on a loose ball and drive it past Blake, ruining his clean sheet, but making somebody's prediction come true.
Yeah. And we finally get the score. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Union did give up that goal late, and then they had to make at least one block shot. And I know Blake had at least one good save to see out the game.
Yep.
But, like we've talked about in the past, like doesn't feel like the Union team of old. They held on for the win. They didn't give it up. They didn't give up ended up tying or even worse, losing on a couple of late game shenanigans.
So related to that, again, Taylor Twellman was talking about how he didn't feel as a convincing half from the Union. I mean, I would tend to agree with definitely the first part of the second half. They seemed out of sorts. But I was wondering what you guys thought about that.
Whether or not they were out of sorts?
No. Just that it wasn't a convincing half from the Union.
I would say it wasn't a
didn't
convincing
feel that
game.
they could go very far in the playoffs playing like this. If they make the playoffs, which I assume they will, but we never know for sure, right? So
yeah, they didn't seem as up for this game as they did against Nashville. Like, I mean, just remembering Sullivan's play in Nashville versus NYCFC. Now, maybe it's because the teams play differently, and one of them favors Sullivan more, or at least Sullivan had a better idea of what needed to be done against Nashville than what had to be done against NYCFC. They did not. The whole team did not look as good against NYCFC, and that's why they only scored 2 goals. At least these goals came from the run of play. I mean, I definitely think it shows something that they were able to score, not just because NYCFC made mistakes. They did, but they scored off of a really great cross to Martinez with a really wonderful finish to beat a diving keeper. Donovan made a run. The through ball was passed. The through ball was passed into his position, and then the ball just. Sometimes you get lucky, and the ball stays with you, and you're able to power it in. I would agree, though, that they did not seem as dominant in this game as they kind of felt in the Nashville game, and in other games where they've just stepped up and believed we will win this game, and this opponent has no chance. They didn't seem to have that same belief, at least from the stands.
The schedule is a lot more compact this year. I mean, they started off with a bunch of side tournaments, but then also I think partially because of this Leagues Cup mid-season break thing, and more teams and all the other reasons, but they're playing a lot more frequently. And I'm not saying, I know they're professionals and all that kind of stuff, but it does take a toll after a while. So as someone involved in a very small biking competition thing, when I don't usually do much at all, right now, it's taking a toll on me. So I can only imagine, professional athletes doing professional things more frequently than they're generally used to doing. Does take a toll. But really quick, another talking point I just wanted to throw out there to you guys. The commentators were also talking about, they very strongly felt that the union needed some designated players, at least one, if not two. This is just commentators commentating, doing the thing and filling airtime. So, but I was wondering what you guys had to say about that.
We should get Cristiano Ronaldo. Just kidding.
Apparently he came out very recently, if not today, and said that the league he's playing in is better than MLS. So. It's because Messi's getting.
There's a little bit of sour grapes there, maybe.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
I don't know, Paul. You want to go first in this one, or?
I would never say no to the right designated player. But again, I wish I remembered which podcast I was listening to. One of them was pointing out that Gazdag might be the single best attacking player that we've ever seen in a Union jersey. And I can't disagree with that. He's so good. A player and just so good on the ball, and he makes everybody around him so much better. Like, if you could dial up a recipe for what you're looking for as a designated player, it's not just somebody who does their job really well. It's somebody who makes the entire team better,
elevates
because
everyone.
he's there. And that's who Gazdag is. Now, he is, to be clear, he is a designated player. That is what you expect from him.
Yeah.
But he's actually living up to it. And it's just, could we get somebody like that as an attacker? Maybe, but then that means that we're sitting Carranza and Aura. Could we get somebody else in a midfield position? But then we'd be sitting McGlynn, Flock, Bedoya, Martinez. Where do we put another designated player? I'm sure it's a problem that Jim Curtin would like to have to deal with.
Sure. Yeah, I remember we kind of talked about this a little bit a couple episodes ago. The whole question of fantasy league. Like, if you could just pluck any player anywhere in the world and bring them to the Union, who would it be, right? But I don't know. I'm probably the worst person to ask a question like this, because I'd probably be a horrible coach, because I pick players based more on heart than actual tactical numeric logic. But I just like the Union's grassroots ground, from bottom to top of we grow our own players. Yes, obviously we go out, we bring in the necessary outside help, but I just like when the Union play well, right? The triangle of death, the diamond midfield, a lot of geometry, actually, when you think about it. But when we're playing well, I just really enjoy the fact that we're doing this. We kind of built this team, saying we, like I'm like in the conference rooms with the various higher ups, but it's like we built the team ourselves. It was a little bit of we don't necessarily need a star, we just make our team great as a whole. And I know Curtin talks about the team mentality too when they play. So bring in a designated player, like if we brought in a Messi, it's like I feel like that's a little too. I don't know how well that would work, with that team, the way the team shoulders kind of the performance as a group.
Mm-hmm.
There's no Zavas in the.
There's no Zavas in our.
That's right.
Exactly. And I kind of like that, but again, that always makes for a good epic narrative, But with that said, if we went ahead and signed like some big old name, I'd probably be like, okay.
Again, they have to fit with the team. That's exactly. I've said it before, so that's fine. But I was just curious what you guys had to say. I did mention that by the end, Taylor was very much on the Blake bandwagon. Not that he was ever off of it, but he very much gave Blake the credit for the win, since he wasn't terribly impressed with the Union in the second half. And also said that Jim Curtin has told him, because I guess he chats with Jim, that Dre is as good as any DP they could sign, which I think is actually very true.
Yes.
I don't have any.
Yes.
I concur.
Yeah, I concur.
So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, but that said, if they end up selling Carranza and bring in a DP striker who not only plays that position well, but can also improve the play on the midfield side of it, I mean, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Scoops will be sad though, because that's her favorite player right now.
He's so good. Carranza's so good.
So good and
it's
easy on the eyes.
Easy on the eyes. Exactly. He is a handsome man. Well, with this win, right? The statistics now, the Union have won 17 out of their last 20 home games. 17 out of their last 20 home games. And according to, I think it was Twellman, that's the first team to do that in MLS since 2000.
Right.
Wow.
And if that wasn't good enough news, the Union's win on Saturday also snapped New York City's 8-game undefeated streak. So
yeah. And I know we had just been talking about Blake, but apparently this was the game that ties him with Ray Gaddis for the most number of starts or games for the most regular season games played for the Union in club history.
I never would have called it. I still don't. It's hard for me to process that Blake has been there that long, but
yeah, you forget it's been like 10 years that he's played.
It's just remarkable. I mean, I so vividly remember the struggles of the early years. It's hard to.
Yeah.
So, and on top of all of it, a Drexel Dragon got to bang the drum at the end of the game because they did give that honor to
Donovan.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
thank you for that, Christy.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I was gonna try to get a third zinger in there beforehand, but then Donovan scored. So what can I say?
Yeah. Got to give him props when he earns it.
Yep, exactly. Absolutely.
Okay, so with this win, the Union we are now in third place. And we're only 9 points behind Cincinnati now, I believe.
No, we're 11 points. We're at 40, and Cincinnati's at 51.
Okay, so maybe they played a game since.
Yeah, I think
something.
so.
Yeah. So yes, those two victories for the Union were a shot in the arm. I think we really need it. Hopefully, this is the beginning of a strong
final push of the season. It's just
push.
A shame that we're going to have to wait a friggin' month before they play another season game. When the team's playing hot like this, you'd like to see them continue to roll, but now we have to take a break for Leagues Cup.
Sorry, I think we need to take a break for Women's World Cup, but that's
yes. Yeah.
Although those games once again past Paul's bedtime. For sure.
That's what the
not all of them. They were either like at 9 at night or
3 in the morning.
Very early in the morning.
Yeah.
So
maybe I'll just wake up early for the 3 in the morning.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you pointed out before, Elliot and Gazdag both made team of the week, and Gazdag won player of the match day.
Nice.
A little bit of news that came out Union news that came out today. They signed a defender from South Africa, a gentleman by the name of, I'm going to attempt it, Owethu Makhanya, from South Africa. I forget the name of the club now. But, early, I haven't seen a highlights reel, but from what was posted on Twitter and the responses from fans, he seemed to be well liked at the club. So hopefully he comes in and Gives us some depth, especially if the Union decide to move one of their center backs, whether that's Damian Lowe or Jacob Glesnes or even Jack Elliott. Overseas within MLS, if somebody gets moved and then this guy can come in and challenge Brandon Craig for some time, that would be great.
Would this kind of discussion dovetail with the Mbaizo issue going on here? Because I know we were listening to the press conference with Curtin.
So this guy is more of a center defender, it sounded like, not an outside back.
Okay.
And Chris,
you were independent of what's going on with Mbaizo and his family.
Well, it's been Ernst's approach, it seems like, each year to bring in players to try to work out with the Union over the course, give them a 2-year deal, see if they can make something of it. And it seems like that might be this kind of a position. He could be really good, or he may not be much of anything. And, if he costs a couple $100,000 in a transfer fee to take that shot, Ernst seems to be willing to do it.
Yeah.
So did you find out who won the Gold Cup?
Mexico.
I don't really care. I would have liked to have seen it in between Mexico and Panama. I would have preferred to have seen Panama win it, especially since they seem to be playing well and they beat the U.S. They beat the U.S. on penalty kicks, but whatever. So, hey, congrats to Mexico.
Yeah.
But more importantly, the Women's World Cup starts this week.
Yes.
I didn't write down which game starts first. I just know that the U.S.'s first game is at 9:00 on Friday against Vietnam. And I looked up to see U.S. is in this Group E, fitting E. And they're in with Vietnam, Portugal, and Netherlands.
Oh, wow.
I'm not sure on the women's side, how good Netherlands and Portugal are.
Mm-hmm.
The Netherlands used to be really good. I don't remember Portugal ever really making a splash on the women's side of it, but I haven't done any research on that.
Yeah.
If this was a men's side, it would be probably the group of death. I don't know how it stacks up among the other groups here in the Women's World Cup, but you gotta like the U.S., they're coming in. They're playing for, I think, their 3rd consecutive World Cup title.
Man,
if they can win it. Kind of feel bad for Vietnam, though.
Yeah, on paper, saying on paper doesn't do it justice. This will be a big fight for Vietnam. But right? Safe money's on the U.S., but as the old saying goes, 9 out of 10 times the U.S. will beat Vietnam. The only thing is we don't know when that 10th game is coming. I don't think it's going to happen.
No, but broadly speaking, I think that the women's game, there's a lot more volatility there. Despite the fact that U.S. has been dominant, I don't think we can sit back. I don't think either of you are suggesting this, but that we can sit back and rest our lives. I think it's a big mistake to do that, because every World Cup there's somebody who's doing so much better, and there's a lot more support. Obviously there's a lot more support in some countries than others, but I think some of the countries that maybe 12 years ago weren't really contenders are now. I think it's making a splash, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Certainly hope we win, but it's just interesting to watch.
I agree. I feel like there are a lot of countries coming up, right? Canada, England, there's always Brazil, but even Japan's been historically a pretty powerful team, but then you still have even France. I'm just kind of going through, it's like you can't take any of this for granted, not that we could have done it in the past. I think with the US team getting so good and dominant, it is forcing all the other teams to also pick up their game as well.
Just reminds me of that German women's team hype video that they did that one time for the remember that, where they're talking about all the all the titles and all that Germany's women's team has won, like 8 European championships, and just all these numbers, and it was insane. And it's like, yeah, they're that good. Yeah. Or Jen just showed me a video the other day, and it was the French national team, and you see like Griezmann and Mbappe, and they're just running past players, giving goes and scoring these laser shots, and then it pauses and it goes backwards, and you see this like kind of like goes back in time, and it's like this person had done this not AI, but basically photoshopped it, and it was actually the French women's team, and they just layered Mbappe and Griezmann's bodies over or faces over the women's team. Wow. It was insane.
There's that commercial out too. I don't know if it's for Nike or whatever, but it's the whole, sports commentator, quick video flashes of plays and people news reporting like what's going to take to stop this American team, and there's like the British take, the German take, all this stuff, and it ends with like Alex Morgan or saying something like, oh well, good luck with that, or something like that. And I love the attitude, but then the whole the inferior complex in me kicks up. It's like, let's not tempt fate, guys. Don't you don't want to talk too much trash right up front, because revenge is a dish and all that. But I mean, heck, if there was ever a team to have this much swagger going in, it's the U.S. team.
It would be nice to send Megan Rapinoe off in style too, because this will be her last. She's announced that she's retiring. It's from international, at least. So.
And you got to like their chances to do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so that starts Friday. They got games Friday, then Wednesday, and then the following Tuesday. So they finish up the 1st of August in the group stage, and then they'll move to the elimination stage after that. As far as union news, they are playing the Leagues Cup starting, I think, Friday or Saturday. They've got Querétaro and Tijuana in their group. And they're going to play, I believe, all 3 of the games. They're going to play, the Union versus those 2, and then those 2 playing against each other. I believe they're all taking place at Subaru Park. Before that moves to the elimination rounds. So one thing that I thought was kind of interesting about the scoring for these games in the group stage is, if you lose, you get 0 points. If you win in regulation time, you get 3 points. If you tie in regulation, they are not going to extra time. They go straight to a penalty shootout. And if you win in the penalty shootout, you get 2 points. If you lose in a penalty shootout, you get 1 point. So again, a win is 3. A win on penalty kicks is 2. A loss on penalty kicks is 1. And then a loss in regulation is a 0.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm surprised that they're allowing that. That seems anti-FIFA, but
it's like almost like a little bit like hockey rules, right?
Almost.
But it's kind of interesting. Instead of getting all 3 points, if you win during regular time, all 3 points. If you win on PKs, you get 2, but you got to give like one of those points to the other team.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't
hate it.
I don't. No. Yeah. It's interesting. All right. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
And it was also interesting to note that the Union are in one of only 2 of the groups that have 2 Mexican teams in it.
Okay.
The other one is Austin. Austin's in a team with Juarez, and I forget the other team. It was one of the bigger Mexican teams,
like
but I can't remember
America
which one.
Or
no, it wasn't Club America. That was in Seattle, if I remember correctly. Seattle and RSL. But yeah, I mean, from what I understand, Tijuana is not doing that great, and Querétaro is kind of lower tier Mexican team. So it sounds like unless the Union really just phone it in, they're going to make it through to the elimination rounds.
And the scuttlebutt I've heard, actually I think it was through the announcers on the New York City FC game was that Curtin is taking the Leagues Cup Y tournament seriously. That they are gonna, they're approaching this tournament to win it. So
yeah, I mean, it's the only tournament that they're playing. It's not one of those things where it's wedged in among regular season games. So why not?
Yeah, maybe I should do the new tagline. Leagues Cup. Why not?
Jury's out.
Yeah. Okay, so aside from Leagues Cup, I guess the MLS All-Star game is
tomorrow
night as we record.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Versus Arsenal.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's just kind of like I don't know, it's a fun little deviation from the normal play.
I preferred it the year or years. I think it was only 1 year that they did it where it was like MLS West versus MLS East or however.
Oh yeah, I remember
I kind of like that better because we certainly have enough teams to do it. I'm guessing they're not doing that because Leagues Cup is starting and they don't want to take that many people away from their teams. Maybe
I think they're also thinking that they get better viewership if they bring over Arsenal type team.
That's probably.
It's not a third team out of Budapest league or something like that. I mean, it's Arsenal. So
it's still going to be on Apple though, so it's still only going to be Apple subscribers. But yeah, and I think unless they're doing a special promotion.
Was tonight the skills challenges?
Probably. I mean, that's how they do it for baseball, so I would assume.
Yeah, they do it. They do a skills challenge night, and I want to say that they were doing it tonight or yesterday. I don't think Martinez or Gilesnas got picked to do any of the challenges, but I'm surprised they weren't up at least for hardest shot.
So, well, dancing probably wasn't a category, so
that's right.
Speaking of which, I just remember at the end of the New York City game, and Martinez is out in the field, and the camera kind of was directed at him. He looks at the camera, and he's doing that whole I gotta tell him he's trying to be coy or
I think he's just a giant goofball.
Yeah, I think giant goofball, but it's kind of I scored that goal. I mean, that's kind of his look on his face.
That spit eating grin.
Yeah, I think he's enjoying scoring.
Yep. Hey, I'm enjoying watching him score, so let's hope he kees it up.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find us on our website. Our website is amorephillyunion.com. Feel free to drop us a line on email. Our email address is pod@amorephillyunion.com. You can find us on Twitter at amorephillyu. Instagram, YouTube, and Threads. You can find us at amorephillyunion. You can download our podcast wherever you get your podcasts, Google, Apple, Spotify, etc. So however you listen to us, make sure you comment, subscribe. That would be fun. Spread the word. I remember the sooner we get to our 1,000 downloads, the sooner we make our donation to the
Philadelphia Union Foundation, and the larger the donation is, the sooner we get there too.
The sooner we get there, the larger the donation will be. Okay, well, hey, thanks for tuning in for another episode of A More Philly Union. We are your hosts. I'm E.
I'm C.
And I'm Paul. Go Union! Leagues Cup, baby.
No, it was maybe.
Maybe.